Dear viewers, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back, good afternoon. This is the Talking Point TV show, the second half with myself, Ahmad Bostan Al-Qadri. We are, of course, talking about the disturbances that took place across the UK all over August. Unfortunately, they did indeed affect our communities in a significant way. As my panellists have mentioned in the last half an hour, there was an evident sense of fear, an evident sense of a worried nature, I think, across a lot of members in the community. Things like people closing their businesses early, going home from work early, or indeed worrying about the safety of their children, their relatives. That all took place in August, and I think it was a very, very, very worrying time, a time where community activists, politicians and police and all parties concerned really needed to play a role. Did they play that role? Well, that's exactly what we've been discussing in the past half an hour. Now, since the disturbances have took place, the Home Affairs Select Committee, led by Keith Vaz, Member of Parliament, a very senior and influential parliamentarian, is currently investigating what has happened. And Sean, I believe that they've been to many cities across the country, many areas that have been affected by these disturbances, in order to get evidence and get a sense of what exactly we're looking at here. And as far as I'm aware, Khalid Mahmood, the Member of Parliament for Birmingham Perry-Barr, as well as yourself, Sean, organised a conference. Tell me more.
Khalid organised the second People's Conference. They'd already done one in Waseem's ward in Lozells earlier in the summer. It's part of a different kind of politics that we're trying to foster in the city, that's about listening to people and listening to real people in real communities, rather than just and taking real note of what they say, rather than just meaningless committees. And it seemed like the obvious response to these events. So Khalid convened this conference very, very quickly. Keith Vaz came as chair of the Home Affairs Committee, several other senior MPs, Privy Councillors like Caroline Flint and Vernon Coker, the Police Minister. Shabana Mahmood came from the Ladywood constituency, MP there, and they did a big political event in the afternoon. In the morning, we did community-based workshops, 4 different community workshops, where we looked at different aspects of what happened and what we might do. There was one on policing, there was one on young people, there was one on women and parenting, which I was in for a short while. It was very, very interesting. Camille was one of the facilitators for that workshop. I don't know if you could...
Before you do that, Camille, I just want to let our viewers know that the phone lines are open, so if you have a question or a comment on the topic of the riots, please do look at the phone number on screen and call in immediately, or as soon as you can in any case. Yes, please go ahead.
I think one of the first things that I have to acknowledge, that, that was, the conference was a good idea to get people together in the community from different sides of the community, because when things like this happen, we all need time to actually be together and to deal with some of the issues. And one of the first things that we had to do, I witnessed in the workshop, was a gentleman who actually had been a victim, and the whole family was really quite traumatized. It was clear when the gentleman came in and spoke, he had a newspaper, that he really was still in a lot of pain, and it was kind of my role and my colleagues to really hear him, to understand, to try and encourage him that as a senior person in the community, that we still needed him to play a role, even with all the pain that he was going through. And when we then started looking at some of the issues, as I said before, the issues are complex. There are issues around parenting. There's no denying that. But we cannot ignore some of the issues that have been happening with young people, for those young people that were involved. The harassment that a lot of them still feel, the fact that the resources that have been taken away from all the young people's facilities. Now, that is not an excuse for rioting. That is not an excuse for antisocial behavior. But one of the things that we had to look at was some of the pressure on parents. In our community, a lot of, for example, a lot of the people employed by the city council, yeah, that we know, and we know that for sure, a lot of them have lost their jobs. It has put in more and more pressure on families.
However, Camille, do you think as a community worker, as somebody who is very much in the heart of the community, some of the most deprived constituencies, in fact, in the country, do you think that it actually brings into question the powers that parents have? But before you answer that question, I've got a call that I need to go to. So let's go to speak to Mrs. Naz from Birmingham. Sister Naz, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for calling. What's your question or your comment, please?
Alaikum assalam. Yes, actually reflecting on the day when the conference was held. I did attend that conference where the reference was given just now. I do have, I had a lot of questions on the day, but unfortunately there wasn't much time left. But to be honest, what this lady saying, I don't know her name.
Camille.
Camille,
yes, Camille.
Camille.
That's
yes,
right.
She's absolutely right, because I'm the person who actually works with children and young people, especially children with disabilities. And past 3 years, my experiences with them is that they had resources. They have been provided the support they need and they needed, and also the support structure around them was very, very strong. But since this cutbacks, and I'm not going to blame entirely onto the cutbacks, there's a lot of other issues as well. But since these cutbacks happened and all of that, the support structure has been taken away, I know 3 to 4 young people, 3 to 4 families who actually suffered really, really badly from it. Especially when the children who were, at risk of reoffending, that behaviour, especially when they are disabled as well, needed that structure, and that structure was taken, and they, during these riots, I know 3 of them were sentenced actually, and my heart really goes for them, because to be honest, this could have been avoided, but it never happened.
Sure. Do you have any other comment or question that you'd like to make, or is that the only one?
That's the only one, to be honest.
Okay. Thank you very much for your call, Sister Naz. I would love to let you carry on, but the limitations in time prevent us from doing so. Camille, do you just want to respond to the powers that parents have, and also maybe a comment on what
that's the other thing.
Said?
I mean, parents, a lot of cases, and people may laugh sometimes, but parents are frightened. Because you hear children, you tell them off too strongly, you hear them telling they'll call child line. And I have known where it has happened, where a child is called child line because they don't want to be told off. Yeah? You've heard children say, well, I'll go into care, because they have this, it's a child's view. And children are there. They will push the boundaries. Part of growing up is that you will try, you will experiment. You see your friends doing certain things, you want to do it. But parents have got to be allowed to be parents, and we're not talking about brutalizing their children, but be parents, and to be able to set the boundaries, to be able to say, no to this, and at the same time, when they need support, we have a number of people, whether it's through relationship issues, whether it's through employment issues, or just the pressures of living in socio-economic conditions that at the moment are stressing even the most able of families. So those are the things. We need to support them. We need to, and when you totally criminalizing some of the young people, some of the sentences that we've heard, and criminalizing them even further. I know one young person the other day who's had quite challenging family circumstances, and literally, what she did was wrong. But you know something? If we had been able to support that young woman, to give her a custodial sentence at 17, is really finishing her off. So there's some of those things that we need to do. And what a lot of the outcome from the conference, from the workshop we were in, raised some of the issues to do with young people and to do with families and the support that they need. And we just cannot deny that.
Ahmed, can I just comment about young people? And I'm sure there's many young people who are watching this program. Let's take Birmingham, for example. We've got the youngest population of young people across Europe here in Birmingham. And the vast majority of young people are fantastic. Young people doing so well.
Yes.
Many of them got their fantastic results of their GCSEs, their S levels, A levels. Many of them are graduating and are looking forward to a positive life. However, the morale of young people is the lowest I've ever seen it.
Absolutely.
They face some of the circumstances that young people face are far more difficult now than ever before.
Yes.
They look at the prospect of going to university and having to pay them huge tuition fees. It is impacting greatly on their morale.
Yes.
They haven't got the support in terms of people advising them. The connection offices, the 2 local connection offices to me have been closed down. That is a huge problem. So we need to look at how we can empower these young people. And one of the issues is, and it will touch on parenting, is the lack of positive role models in the lives of young people, the lack of a father figure. And what we need to do as a city, and I bear in mind that our future mayor is also listening in here, is we need to promote as many positive role models as possible from within our communities to show the difficulties they face and the successes they've made. We've had Jamelia recently come out saying that she's willing to work with young people, and she is, one of the most positive role models you can get. We've got Ahmed here, who's host. Sorry to embarrass you, Ahmed. He's a young person who's currently studying his AS levels. He's a fantastic role model for young people. So I think we need to get some of these role models out into the community to empower the young people in what is, without doubt, the most difficult time to be young.
And we do have them. I had a 15-year-old the other day who'd gone in and got 5 GCSEs in year 10.
Fantastic.
And it's not far from here. The fact that she ended up being stopped by the police with guns, it didn't help. With she and her family, and that's an issue about. And I think you come back to some of the things that you were saying. We need to be dealing and building the bridges, because as much as we are trying, if you then have incidents like that, it does not help.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean?
I just want to go to Sean Simon here, who is likely to be our future mayor here in Birmingham. What do you think, Sean, this suggests about the lessons we should learn from what has happened here in Birmingham and across the country? We can't really let a small minority of young people, a group of thugs effectively, take control of our cities and put that fear into people like they've done this time again, can we, Sean?
3 things, Ahmad. Firstly, I should say, everybody keeps saying future mayor, inshallah, but I should just say that first of all we have to have a referendum in May on whether we're going to have a mayor.
Keep forgetting that, don't we?
And then then we have to have an election to choose a Labour candidate, and then we have to have a real election. So
there's some journey.
There's a few little steps to go through first. Secondly, let's be quite clear, and it was the clear message that came out of the People's Conference, and it's the clear message of everybody I talk to in the community. Quite clear, there's no excuse for any of this behaviour. There is absolutely no excuse. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, however much you might have suffered, however alienated and disenfranchised you may feel, there is no excuse for criminality and setting fire to people's homes and businesses and looting and stealing and really inflicting terror on the whole city. Everybody in our city and millions of people across our country were affected by this. Even if they didn't suffer a direct loss, they were affected because they were frightened, because they had their day curtailed, because they felt confused and scared. And that is not acceptable. There is no excuse. Nevertheless, although there are no excuses, we have to look for reasons.
Yes.
And having been in all of the 4 workshops that we did here in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, the one thing that was mentioned in every workshop was unemployment.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a big thing, and obviously the vast, overwhelming majority of people who are unemployed do not commit crime.
No.
And it's no excuse. But nevertheless, this city has worse unemployment than any other major city in the UK by a significant margin, and we have done for generations.
And consistently so.
And consistently so. And and disproportionately so in particular communities, which means in particular parts of the city, which are indeed the same communities in which these kind of events happen in an almost cyclical way. And whether you were talking to people about community cohesion, about policing, about parenting, about young people, the single message came through that you can't do the kind of work that we need to do in all these areas unless you're basing it in a community where people have got jobs, when they're in work, not just for the money, but for the stability, for the moral coherence that gives to people's lives and to communities. And if there's one thing that we have to do with this city, we have to start generating some jobs and some wealth and put people back to work.
And could I just say, not just it's important in the centre of Birmingham, but you also need someone with the political will and the moral purpose to change the tale of two cities that exist. Yeah? Because in the centre of Birmingham, we're all very proud of it. We're going and we've seen the transformation. But when you leave Ockley, it's another world. Yeah?
And I suppose this is typical across the country with many of our major cities that we look at.
Yeah, yes, it may well be so, but Birmingham has been consistently so for decades now. And we need someone with the political will, and as I said, I'm also including this, the CBI and all of those who have a responsibility from their area about creating jobs and so on, because we need young people to be from Handsworth, from Lozells, from Winson Green, from Aston, to see jobs being created and being sustained in those areas. Yeah? And that is something that we're not seeing.
Sure. Yeah. Now, Councillor Zaffar, at this spring conference organised by Cllr Mahmood, Member of Parliament, that was evidently very successful. It wasn't a conference organised a month after the disturbances. It was organised as soon as was physically possible, with many senior community workers in attendance, many people from all backgrounds really turning up. Recall that at the session in the afternoon that I myself attended, as well as the session in the morning, but especially the session in the afternoon, the whole hall, I think, at City College was packed full of people wanting to get their opinions across to the Home Affairs Select Committee and the parliamentarians that were present on the panel. What do you think we need to do in terms of listening to young people more? Because I've noted that since these disturbances happened, a lot of authorities that work with young people, including the police, for example, have now established community reference advisory groups, for example. Do you think there's more listening that needs to go on here?
Without doubt, I think we need to create platforms where we can listen to young people, we can engage with young people, and most importantly, get young people involved in decision making. I think we sometimes think that consultation is the answer to everything. Consultation just ticks a box to say we've spoken to people, but how do we actually engage the young people? And one of the things that the hall was totally packed. It was a very, very successful conference organised by Khalid and supported by Sion and others. But the one thing that was missing, as far as I was concerned, was the number of youth workers that were there. There weren't many youth workers, and that's not because they weren't bothered enough to come down. It's because they no longer exist.
Yes.
That's the issue. And those are youth workers employed by the city, so statutory youth workers and youth workers from the third sector. And the third sector, community organisations, voluntary sector organisations have played a huge role in supporting young people in the past. So the youth centres are clearly closing down. And how do we engage with the young people? How do we get our message across to young people? How do we listen to what?
And if you look about the arguments that there've been about cuts and whether the cuts were a part of the problem here and a direct cause. You made the points earlier about the policing cuts, which is bang on. Lots of other cuts, like the cuts to EMA, is only just coming in this month.
Yes.
The higher tuition fees hasn't come in yet.
Parenting support.
The youth cuts have been biting since day one, have been going on for a year. The youth centres have already shut down. The youth workers have already been sacked. It is no coincidence that this has happened bang in the middle of the summer holidays, and when young people are not at school, and this summer they have got nothing to do and nobody to engage them, and they are really. This is partly a direct result of those cuts in the
Yes.
youth
I
sector.
think it is important
Yes,
to mention,
yes.
however, that the government themselves may come forward and argue that they are trying to make the best out of a bad situation. Obviously, everybody's aware of the national deficit, and they perhaps would say that they need to make these cuts in order to move forward. And
as-
I'm trying-
from what I hear, the
and are
bankers'
trying their
bonus
best
has gone
to-
right back.
Ahmed's trying his best to be as
trying
impartial as possible.
and are trying their best to protect the frontline services, but obviously you would all disagree.
Ahmed,
they're
Let
trying
me
to
just
get-
let me just go to
independent
let me just go to a caller. I've got a caller waiting online. Assalamu alaikum, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from, please?
I'm just a resident of Handsworth, and I'm just picking up Councillor Zaffar there because he's mentioning that youth clubs are closing. But what I would like to point out is that there is still a facility for a travelling youth bus, it is, that's owned by the city, goes around. I did see it on St Teresa's car park on Wellington Road not long ago. So it is available, and it goes to various places where it's needed. And there's also the midnight bus that Councillor perhaps is also forgotten about as well.
Well,
Right,
that's
okay,
good
well,
to know.
thank
It's
you
good to
for
know.
mentioning that. I think that very much helps us in providing the alternative point of view. As you know, on this program, we are very much impartial. We like to hear all opinions, whatever they may be. As long as they are not offensive, then we will be more than happy to accommodate it. Now, unfortunately, time has beaten us, as
Yes.
always, and I've just been told in my ear through my earpiece that we have a matter of a couple of minutes left of the program. So I'm just going to go to each of you to summarize your opinion on what we've been discussing today, what lessons can be learnt, and any other additional things that you may want to mention as well, starting of course with Sean Simon.
Thanks, Ahmed. Firstly, let's all be clear, there is no excuse for what went on. People that committed crimes against the whole community, need to be dealt with in a serious way. On the other hand, we need to look at why what happened, and we need to see what we can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. And the underlying problems that cause events like this, more than anything, are economic and social. And we need some leadership in the city. We need some wealth generated by our businesses and some jobs for our people.
Camille, Ade-John, very briefly, if you can.
Yes,
please.
I concur with that, and I'm saying that parents, families and parents have been bearing the brunt of the impact of the cuts in trying to manage some of them in the most challenging situations, and we need to understand the complexities of all that.
Okay.
Nobody's condoning what has happened, but we need to understand.
Absolutely. Councillor Zaffar, briefly, please.
Our country suffered immensely with the loss of 4 lives during these disturbances and the issue around Mr. Duggan's death. We can't afford to suffer any form of loss in these circumstances again. We need to move forward in a positive way, and let's all come together and be proud to be British, be proud to be Brummies.
Thank you very much, all three of you, for coming down to the programme. I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for watching today. The programme should be returning to its normal time of 11:30, hopefully next week. This platform has, of course, been possible and has been given by Hazrat Qibla Pir Alauddin Siddiqui Maddazil Aliyah. I was with him yesterday. So please make sure that you make dua for him, and may they have a long life so they can continue to do the wonderful work we are doing. And just yesterday, Hazrat Qibla Pir Sahib was praising the diversity of guests that we have on this program. So I'd like to thank them for their wonderful comments, and I'm truly honoured to have their support as well in this mission of gaining a better understanding of the world that we live in. Jazakallah khair for your contributions today, dear viewers, and for watching. We'll be back next week at 11. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.